Hi, this is Andes,
An Essex Spades.
and we are here in KBPS today talking with singer-songwriter actress Abigail Fierce. Hi.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice, nice. Good to hear. Good to hear. Essex, you want to go ahead and start off?
So, what is your last name? What's the definition of your last name? Like Fierce, right? So yeah.
So I chose that as my stage name because right before I started releasing music, kind of a sad story, but both of my grandparents passed away and I was cleaning out their house and I found my grandmother had this long genealogy like list going all the way back to like the 1600s or something crazy. And someone
Oh,
had the last name Fierce and I was like, okay, well, that's awesome and I'd be a fool not to use that.
that is awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So kind of along with like your title, what you do for work, how do you balance acting, writing, song like writing, all of that, like all in one person?
I don't basically I don't have a life outside of my career. It's almost like a vocation at that point. Like this is my stack of things on my desk like to do right now.
Oh wow.
And it's always like that. But I love my career and I basically devoted my life to it and I'm okay with that.
So with acting and writing, my question is, so you said earlier in one of your interviews is you've been traveling and doing like live shows. So mine is, have you ever crowd surfed before?
I have not, but I would be open to the opportunity. I think that sounds awesome.
That does sound cool. Yeah, I know Essex really wanted to ask that question in particular.
Every time I've seen Girl in Red a handful of times and she always crowd surfs and I'm like, okay, that looks awesome.
Yeah. Uh, so we know that you do a lot of work in music and television. What is one song you regret writing or one role you regret playing as and why?
I wouldn't say that I have any regrets yet. Check back with me in a couple years, but I would say, with my music, I have complete control over it and I work it until it's something that I'm proud of. My with my acting career, like as an actor, the hard thing is that sometimes, you can give something your all, and then when you see the finished product, it's just different from what you thought it would be, and maybe they edited it differently. And especially something that's like comedy, maybe like the jokes didn't quite land as much as they did, when you did it in person, because it's like just edited a little off, so that's like that can be hard sometimes, but I do knowing everything that I know now. One of my first songs that I put out was called Some Sort of Goodbye, and I think I would produce that differently just because I know so much more now than I did. But I certainly don't regret it. I still think it's a nice song.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. I mean, I certainly get what you mean by editing too much. Just yesterday we were talking about how we were like editing interviews and it just like you need to have those fumbles in order for it to sound natural.
Yeah, yeah, but you don't want it to be like too much.
Too standard, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you had your dog in the background. So my dying question is, what animal, any animal that you didn't have to take care of, what would it be?
Oh, if I could like have it as a pet
Yeah,
or
like if you could have it as a pet, but you didn't have to like feed it or water, like give it water.
oh my God. I feel like I need to say something like an elephant or a giraffe, but I really like capybaras. And then
Oh,
I also the target dog is a breed of dog called a bull terrier, and I
yeah,
want a bull terrier, but I live in an apartment and they are like crazy and their puppy energy like never calms down, but they're like so
right.
funny. So like if I didn't have to take care of it, I would like love to like see a bull terrier every day.
That's fun.
Yeah. Um, so we are talking about how like not really regretting any of your songs or roles that you played as, but how many song ideas have you scrapped if you had to guess?
Gosh, I don't know if I ever scrap them. I try to write almost every night, and then like if it's not something that I'm like passionate about, I'll just like move on to the next page. And like the best ones are the ones that get finished quickly, maybe. But I do have a lot of ideas where I'm like, okay, I have maybe one verse or one chorus, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like the right time. Like I'll come back to this. But I have like tens of books. I would say hundreds.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to like sorry, I'm trying to figure out what I want to say, but like it's nice to like be proud of what you do and
Yeah.
not like have any ideas that you didn't really not like.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of them too. I would say I have definitely more like just of unfinished verse or chorus than like finished songs, you know? Because if I finish it, it's usually like time to, try to start producing it or something. But
Right.
yeah, I have this idea that someday I'm gonna like sit down and finish everything I do, and like that's not gonna happen.
Right. I know what you mean.
So speaking of interviews, right? How did you find us? Because most of the time we find people. So how did you find us?
Well, I'm completely indie. I don't have like a manager or a label or anything. So I was looking at radio stations to send my music to, and I thought, I was looking at like college stations, but high school stations are a lot of fun because I don't know, the kids are really like passionate about it. Um, and I was actually in Portland last spring I filmed a comedy movie with this influencer. His name is Squeezy. Um, yeah, you might have heard.
I think so.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he's like the number one 50-year-old TikToker. Um, so yeah, I was in Portland, and so I thought, well, we'll start with, like some of the places that I've been.
Hmm. Nice. So
Oh, do you have a question for me?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious because you were, talking about how you produce your songs. So I was just kind of curious, how do you produce your songs? Like recording, I assume you record and edit it yourself. Do you have like a studio or how do you do it?
So I go to an audio engineer, and he does like he presses record and like helps me cut it together, but I play all the instruments on my tracks and like have complete like creative like control over what I want to do, or I'll tell him turn this up, turn that down. But I have like an audio engineer to help me kind of like learn all that.
yeah, it's nice to have like some sort of kind of help, I feel like,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
with a like all that I've read that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's time. I would like to have like more help, but I don't. A lot of things cost like a lot of money, so
right.
I do the best I can.
Yeah. So like kind of with that, like without all of the help that you kind of wish you had, like you're often described as giving 110%. What is it that keeps you so motivated and so hardworking?
I, part of it, I guess, is just like personality. Like I think my mom's probably the same way, just like the way I was born. But then part of it too is that I've been doing this like so long that I didn't go to college, so I feel like this is it. I have to keep going.
Right. Yeah, totally. Essex, do you have
So what is your method into getting into character when acting?
Yeah, so it's a hard question because a lot of it, I would say I tap more into the emotions, and then from there you can, like, if that makes sense, you can kind of meet like whatever they're going through. One thing I learned early on with acting is like if you use your own personal like trauma for a sad scene, say, you're going to be going over that in your head all day, and you're going to be not over it by the time that it's time to film it, but like maybe you already cried about it and like you're over it. Whereas empathy is a really strong tool. So if you just like imagine what the person is going through, you can keep kind of tapping into that, maybe, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I just act like there was a show that I was watching and one of the episodes is like one of a really funny one and they had to pretend to act like themselves in the episode. So they were having a hard time because they were like goofing it up so many times and they're like retake, retake. But then I'm like if you were to be asked to act you like yourself, you probably wouldn't because
No,
it's
you'd probably be
hard.
like a caricature. Like I'd probably start talking like lower than I talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. You would, yeah. So my question is, if you could live in any decade, what would you choose?
Definitely the 90s. I wasn't there to experience it. And, yeah, and I love 90s music, so I would have liked to been able to, be old enough to experience that, maybe like a teenager in the 90s. And then I always say I feel like my mom and I should have switched generations. She like grew up in the 70s, was a teenager in the 80s, young adult in the 90s, and just had a whole life like before everyone got wrapped up in the computer. And I feel like that would be ideal.
Uh, I mean, so we know that we are on Zoom right now, but radio listeners can't see your t-shirt. Can you tell us what you're wearing and what connection you have to Portland, maybe?
My shirt says "Keep Portland Weird." I've always wanted to. I wore it just for you all. I've always wanted to go to Portland or Seattle because the whole like Pacific Northwest. I love Courtney Love and Hole and like grunge music, so that kind of whole scene was really exciting to me. And then last summer, I got to go to Portland for the first time because of that movie I was in, and I got to go to Multnomah Falls and all the really pretty stuff. Yeah, so that was really cool. I have a lot of like Sasquatch merch now, which is funny.
Yes.
My grandparents lived in West Virginia, which is also a big Sasquatch place. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw a sign the other day that was like most wanted Sasquatch. And then I saw another one that was like, it's actually not Sasquatch, it's Bigfoot. I'm like, what? But yeah. My question is, so you said you loved the 90s, and in your interview you also said you like artists from like the 90s. So what would your favorite artist to collab would be
From the
with?
90s or just in general?
Like from the 90s or in general, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Courtney Love from Hole.
Uh,
Or Alanis Morissette would be really cool.
oh yeah, Alanis Morissette. That's cool. I like Alanis Morissette. Uh, so that being said, you do a lot of stuff, and you're talking about like all these scenes and like music genres that inspired you. And you do a lot of work in performing like music, acting. Like, what were you most passionate about when you were younger? Like, did you always want to do exactly what you're doing now?
Yeah, I did. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian because I grew up with the yellow lab. He was my best friend, and but
Oh.
then I found out that the veterinarian like has to give them shots and things and doesn't just get to like play with dogs all day.
Yeah, no.
I was like, okay, I don't want to give them shots. Um, but yeah, I'd say I think Hannah Montana probably ruined me.
Oh yeah.
Made me want to do this.
I didn't really grow up on Hannah Montana, but I had a friend in school that everyone would make fun of and rhyme her name with stuff. And I was like, can you not? Like, yeah,
Right?
it
Yeah.
was pretty funny because everyone would rhyme her name. And I'm like, why? What is so funny? And then I made the reference, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. The Simpsons has a great bit about like a Hannah Montana knockoff called Alaska, Nebraska.
Sorry, I'm just having trouble
You're
finding think of a question. Uh,
If you had to switch genres of music, what would you choose?
Oh my gosh. So I have a couple, like rock songs. Maybe we'll just go rock full time, but I have a new song coming out in June that I just announced called 14 Cigarettes. And on the bridge, I'm like screaming in the background. And I'm like, okay, well, that actually came out nicely. And I'm like, I could do like a metal, like a screamo track, but then I would not be able to preserve my voice for a long time.
yeah.
But that would be cool.
That would be cool. Uh, I mean, I imagine you've had a lot of time to like think on what you would do with your music career, and like, uh, where you would go with this. But like, how long have you been doing this exactly?
So 10 years now. I just turned 24, so we're gonna be going on 11 years. But I'm
Wow.
originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I kind of convinced my mom to let me go out to like we came out to LA for a week and I did this little like showcase thing and I got a manager and an agent and my mom was like, well, if you're good enough to do that, then maybe we can actually like try this. Because both my parents are like in the science field. They're like, there are no like artists in our family or anyone like creative. So it was like a big like sacrifice and leap for us to actually like try this. And so we did. And, over time, my mom and I just became more permanent out here in LA. And, I would always be getting good feedback. They would tell my agent, like, oh my gosh, we love her, but like not this time. We went with a brunette or something else, and I'm like, and it just keeps happening. And so I've just gotten used to it. It's like, it's just become like a job now, if that makes sense. I'm less like personally attached to it, maybe.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, my final question is, how did you come up with "Scream It to the World"? Because that's one of my favorite songs.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you. It's actually based on like a true story. So, but and then I love pop punk, and so I was kind of like playing around with different like pop punk chords on the guitar, and so I was like just trying to shape this complete story. And I absolutely one of my favorite parts is the bridge where I'm like when I wrote it, let's see, I was 18, 19. So I was not, 2 years out of college or whatever in the bridge because I referenced that and but that's one of my favorite parts is that I'm kind of going into the future to like finish the story. But then that part's really embarrassing when I'm performing live. Like if I like when I first started performing, if I was somewhere where there like weren't a lot of people, I'm like saying 2 years out of college and she's whatever because I'm famous now and it's like I'm not famous.
Oh, soon to be so. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think, I think that might be good. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sounds good. It's been so nice talking with you.
Of course, I had fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, for sure. Uh, so for anyone who's tuned in, like in the middle of this, not really know what we're talking about, who we're talking to, we have been speaking with Abigail Fierce, and her website is abigailfierce.com. She is a singer, songwriter, and actress. We've all been getting really into what she does. And it's really nice to have an opportunity to speak with her. Abigail, thank you for talking with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye bye.
Bye.